Hey everybody, it's Carter Froelich. And our mission at Launch Development Finance Advisors is to be a hero to the land development and home building community. We do that through a lot of different ways, but one of the ways that I want to give back to the industry is to be able to share our experience as well as the experience of a myriad of different players in our industry, their experience, what they've learned, what they're doing, and just the knowledge that they have to provide to the industry. With that having been said, I hope you enjoy this episode. And if there's anything that we can do at launch to help you finance infrastructure, reduce costs, mitigate risk, all with the goal of enhancing project profitability and returns, please give us a call at the contact information in the show notes.
Welcome to the Land to Lots podcast, powered by Launch Development Finance Advisors. And now your host, Carter Froelich.
Welcome back to episode 3 of my conversation with Scott Cox. And I've been with some projects now for over 30 years, and I can guarantee you that nobody's ever gone back to look at it.
Yeah,
they would be too depressed. So now let's look at equity multiples instead.
Yeah. You know, the nice part of that is at least that tends to be a real number.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right.
So let's riff on that now, Scott. You know, the equity multiple.
Yeah. So there is a logic to it, which is, okay, fine. I got you a 25 IRR, but it lasted 2 years and you made 45 cents.
Yeah.
And if you're running a fund, it really does make sense as part of it. Now, again, usually if you're running a fund, you do have IRR hurdles to exceed.
Yep.
So you have to care, but at the same time, in many cases with the fund, you use the money, you don't get to use it again. So I don't really want to give you $10 million and get it back in the form of $12 million 1 year later and say, well, it was a 20.
Yeah.
Well, okay, it was, but I don't get to use that money again. It's really only $2 million profit to the fund.
Yeah.
And the money's kind of lost. I have to fundraise again.
Yeah.
I'd really rather you earned a little lower IRR, not a lot lower, but a little bit, and you actually use the darn money for 5 or 6 years.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
that's how we make money.
Yeah.
So there is that side of it on the fund side, which is why a lot of the times, even though they're basic hurdles in a waterfall or IRR based, they often will have some equity multiples in there somewhere because they want to avoid that. Like you could say, I've done a great thing for you. I got in your world, I got an early bond issuance, like a year and a half before we expected, and for more.
Yeah.
And I got back like 2/3 of your capital, and the IRRs look great. And you're sitting there going, yeah, but the total profit I'm getting isn't all that exciting. Now it's a quality problem. Don't get me wrong. But so it does make some sense to have equity multiples in. It makes some sense in terms of thinking about project efficiency, right? We can only manage so many projects at a time, or we take on more people. Well, how much did we get out of each project? It really is a balance. I would say anybody who just looks at equity multiples is not properly choosing between projects, and they're probably not dealing with things like period costs and should we go faster, not well. But I would also say if you were just obsessed with IRR, there isn't a tendency to really miss some basic risk questions, basic return questions. That's why I really think the answer is both, because both are telling you different things. It's kind of like analyzing a financial statement differently. Some analysis helps you understand this, some helps you understand that. I think it's a both.
Yeah. Yeah. No, it's a real interesting topic, and it's at some point the math is of projects I find very interesting, but to the point you were saying with the analyst, there's some real simple math you can do to check your assumptions if you're being told the right things. You can just bring simple calculator, as long as you have the information, you either know if it's true or not. Yeah.
For the second time in this conversation, I will say that the yellow pad should be your best friend. You hear a number and you just do a very quick, well, that would imply X. Do I believe that? Does that make sense? it's a great way to make sure that somebody's complex spreadsheet isn't broken somewhere.
Yeah.
It's like, well, I did this on the yellow pen. I didn't expect it to look exactly like you. It looks way too different. Like,
Yeah. Yeah.
either I didn't understand something on my yellow pad, or your numbers are broken, and we're going to figure out which one it
Yeah.
is.
Which one's off? Yeah.
But I think you always start with that simple math on stuff and go, okay, if I think I'm making X, I'm spending Y. Like, how does that look?
We've got a client that's one of the largest landowners in a certain state, and they're trying to raise equity capital, and said, "Can we see your pro forma?" And they go, "Well, we don't have pro forma. We just know how much money we're going to bring in, how much it's going to cost, and the rest is ours." And we said, "Well, yeah, yellow pad, that's good. However,
yeah,
they're going to expect something a little different."
Yes, they are.
Yeah.
They both have their values.
Yeah.
Both should be, like all tools, they should be
Yeah.
used in the right place at the right time.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. So you had brought up the issue of we're never going to have or never build as many single family lots as we need. Is that what you said, Scott? I want to make sure I'm not putting words in your mouth.
Yeah, no, I think that's true.
And why is that? And get into it. And what can we do as an industry to address that, not only in terms of working with the jurisdictions, but also with the people that have this American dream of, I've got the single family home, a white picket fence, and kids walk to school and life is wonderful.
Yeah.
So,
yeah. And to preface this, and I do some speaking to politicians for the Denver HBA periodically. And, I always make the point, whatever you hear come out of my mouth, what I want you to take away from this is the answer to your questions is all of the above.
yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
It's not just TOD or ADUs, but it's also not just single family. You want to fix your housing problems. It's all of the above. If you can think of it, we need to be doing it.
Yeah.
But on the single family side, I don't think we're going to make enough. Because what I've observed over my career, so I started in California.
Yeah. As
which
did I. Yeah.
was the worst place the soonest, so to speak, for all this. And as I sometimes joke, things haven't been affordable since I was a kid in California.
Yeah.
But what I noticed, particularly after I moved back east and started spending more time in eastern markets and central markets and stuff, is every place is getting worse for getting this done. Now, if you were thinking about it like on a graph, if California is way up here, and then you might go, well, then Denver is down below it.
Yeah.
And my friends in California would laugh at what people in Denver think is hard. They really have no idea how bad secret is and the stuff that happens.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
But Denver's really hard, and the people in Denver would probably laugh at the people in Atlanta, what they think is hard.
Yeah.
But the relevant point is all of them have the same slope of getting harder.
Yeah.
They just started at different times. But, we could argue about maybe Houston's an exception, but like even Dallas is harder than it used to be. It's not as bad as most places, but every market seems to be going through the same major market, the same evolution. More environmental rules, more regulations, slower process. While it is true that there's some positive things in the YIMBY world, the yes in my backyard and in the housing discussions, the reality is there are almost no proponents other than actual buyers for building more single family homes.
Yeah.
Right. Everybody thinks the answer can magically be nothing but vertical and transit oriented and ADUs and missing middles, all which is great. Look, it defies math to say that can solve our problems.
Yeah.
It's literally mathematically ridiculous if you just kind of look at what it would take.
Yeah.
And then you get into the cost structure of vertical and the other stuff. And you're like, if you're for affordability and you're for housing supply, that's just not going to get the job done by itself. But there's no big constituency for single family lots. The people who want them that you referenced aren't generally a mobilized community to get your next big subdivision done.
Yeah.
And almost all MSAs, and again, some Texas ones you could argue this hasn't happened, thankfully, but the same thing happens, right? The MSA gets bigger, so going further out is going further out,
Yeah.
I don't mean to speak for you, but I think when
Yeah.
you and I were, out of school and trying to buy a house, drive till you qualify sounded like 30 minutes, not an hour and a half.
Yeah.
So further out is further out.
Yeah.
Regardless of the politics of your state, in almost every state, very few exceptions, more of the budget now goes towards social things. And that may be right. This is not a political statement.
Right.
It's a simple fact that a smaller percentage goes to infrastructure than used to.
Yeah.
And that makes more of it on the backs of developers. Now, that makes you wildly valuable and incredibly important, but I think both of us would concede if you wanted to do infrastructure wisely, how would you do it?
Yeah.
At the largest scale possible with the lowest cost of capital possible.
Mm-hmm.
Well, who would that be? County, state, city governments facilitating large areas.
Yeah.
And they used to think that was part of their job.
Yeah.
We want to grow. We want to facilitate growth. They mostly now don't think that's their job. They think development should pay for itself. There's a long discussion about that. It's a horrible phrase, and trying to figure out a nice word for your viewers.
I had a city council meeting 2 days ago. I can talk about that very issue.
So everywhere we have to put in more infrastructure, everywhere what they want for infrastructure. And again, right, wrong, or indifferent, right? But retention basins and detention basins are bigger than they were. Maybe they should be. Some of this stuff is gold-plated. Some of it is sensible, but it's all more expensive. More and more, it's on the backs of builders, developers.
Yeah.
Banks are too smart to be doing long-term land anymore, and they shouldn't if you look at their track record. And so we see the same things playing out and the lack of support. So I'll give you a Denver example. It's a little extreme. Thankfully, most of the country isn't like that. But just reading in the paper that there's a tech company they're trying to get to move, and they're going to give a subsidy of $13,000 a job if this company comes here. But when those people go to actually buy a house, the government will charge $85,000 in fees. So let me get this straight. You're willing to pay $12,000 or $13,000 to get a job. But you're going to charge $85,000 for where it sleeps at night.
Yeah.
Now that's a little extreme compared to most of the country, but that kind of thing continues to play out.
Yeah.
And I think the chance that government wakes up and says, we actually do need single family, and we do need, so we can't get there without it. You got too many people fighting against it. You got the people who believe that that's just environmentally wrong, climate wrong, don't want it in my backyard. There's just no real constituency for it other than the people, as you point out, who would buy them, but they're not a mobilized group.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so I don't think we're ever going to build enough. And I think as you look at the markets, you continue to see that the percentage that's single family versus multifamily is shifted.
Yeah.
And, as I say to the politicians sometimes, the data is pretty clear. 80% of people want a single family house. If 50% of what we build in Denver is a single family house, what do you think will happen to the prices?
Yeah. Yeah.
It's not that complicated. 80% of the people want something, but we're making it to where 60% or 50% of it is what we actually build.
Yeah.
Single family just becomes a luxury good over time. And it's very sad, but it becomes a luxury good. If you make enough money, you can have one. But if you don't make a lot of money, we're going to force you to be in an apartment and vertical living, whatever. In my view, if that is what we're doing, politicians should at least be honest about that. That actually is what we're doing. But so I don't think we'll make enough, which to me then says it doesn't mean we won't have cycles, problems. We're human beings. We'll screw stuff up.
Right.
But I think it's a little different than it used to be, right? So there was a cycle earlier in your and my career that more or less would play out as we would overbuild, right? Things would be good.
Yeah.
We'd all, decide that our next project was the next one needed. We'd build too many projects, right? And I don't want to speak for you, but I think, we were both taught, look at your vacant developed lots, months of supply, right? And 18 is tight, 24 is too many, and we should be in that sweet spot, and that's what you're watching out for.
Yeah.
Because we could and would overbuild, and we would create too many lots. When you overbuild, then what would happen? Well, if you have too many of something, and more than you have buyers, you really need to grow your economy to where you can fill them up. I kind of describe it as like reverse musical chairs.
Yeah.
If you put too many chairs out there, you can't get them all occupied until you just grow more butts.
Yeah.
And so we have this period where it's like, well, we created too much, and it doesn't matter how much we drop the price, it's still too much.
Yeah.
We'll work our way through it, but it's too much. And then, and I think this is important, well, who's going to buy the lots and turn them into houses?
Right.
In the past, with 25% of the market public builders or less, it was privates. And the privates were damaged. They were working through their own projects. Their banks might be going, I'll help you finish this one. I'm not helping you do more.
Yeah.
So you needed more butts for the chairs, but you also needed the buyers of your lots time to heal and get better, or for the price to fall enough that you could call up Scott Cox at IHP and go, hey, do I have a screaming deal? We're going to make a 25, 30 IRR.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So it took a while to get butts and chairs.
Yep.
And things had to fall far enough to attract, call myself difficult capital. That's how you worked your way out of it.
Yeah. Yeah.
It took a long time. And you would go through periods of time where nobody was going to buy your lots.
Right.
Okay, well, think about today. We're not really oversupplied. We're overpriced.
Yeah.
And that's going to happen. The thing about overpricing is that gets fixed faster than too much supply.
Yeah.
We don't need more butts. We just have to adjust the price. You might not like it. It might be fun, but there actually are enough butts for the chairs.
Yeah.
You don't have to wait to get more.
So to adjust the price on single family homes, right? I've got a master plan, and I agree that we're out in the hinterlands. It costs $1 gajillion. Sometimes the cities want you to develop it, sometimes they don't. It's supply and demand. But ultimately, it's just math. I've got X amount of acres. I've got a 18,000 square foot lot. If I can carve that into 3 lots, 6,000, now I've got more housing to bring down the cost, where more people can qualify, go from the vertical living to a single family, albeit it's not what they had as a kid growing up in Cleveland, or wherever that is. So is it density that helps us? Is it the changing of the product? Because I know some home builders, they would probably think of they're home builders. We build homes, period. And that to them is a single family home. Yeah, I would say if you were in the business of providing shelter, that would give you more options. I'm being a little facetious, but it'd give you more options. Would that help? And is it just density that has been done wrong? And I'm talking to you with your architect hat on now. Is it the urban planning? Is it all of the above? Is that going to help or not? I'm just curious to get your input.
Yeah, I think it's the most viable answer to change affordability.
Yeah.
I think the idea that somehow we're to get low enough rates that goes away.
Yeah.
I don't know about that. And at the same time, because of the shortage of lots, I don't think they're going to fall as far as they did in the past.
Yeah.
And, to finish the earlier thought, instead of waiting for it to be good enough to get Scott to finance you as a private with equity, you just need one of the publics to say, hey, that's a fair deal, I'll buy it. Yeah. They don't need as good a deal as I did to do things.
Yeah.
So they're going to be back in the game just as they were after interest rates spiked, faster. They don't need great. I don't care what they say. They don't need great deals. They just need fair deals.
Right.
So as soon as the price is fair, they're off and running. So I don't think land is going to fall enough to fix affordability.
I agree.
I'm not convinced we're going to squeeze enough costs out of the house. Value engineering is great and all that stuff.
Yeah. There's only so much you can do. Yeah.
I think it's back to that utility question. How do I more efficiently deliver the utility?
Yeah.
Right? how do I say, okay, what do people want? Well, they want a driveway and they want a 2-car garage and 4 bedrooms and they want a
Yeah.
spot for, Fido to do his
Yeah.
business in the backyard. And they want a patio big enough to have, a couple friends over for cocktails and grill.
Yeah.
Okay. I don't need 5,000 square foot lots to produce that.
Yeah. Exactly.
Certainly don't need 6,000.
Yeah.
Right? I could do a 60 by 40 wide shallow and actually
Yeah. Yeah.
50 and produce all that stuff easily for half the lot. I think the answer is exactly what you said. It's in the product, it's in the land plan. Sometimes I describe it as, the buyers kind of sort of have a checklist of what they want, right? And there's locational things they want and schools they want and bedroom counts and garages and things. And the reality is today, very rarely can we check all the boxes.
Yeah.
Right? We're running out of people who make enough money that I can give a house to and actually genuinely get everything they want in the place they want.
Yeah.
That's becoming almost too small to care about.
Mm-hmm.
Very niche business anyway. So if they have 10 things on their list, the first thing you want to do is know what are the 10 things.
Yeah.
The next thing is, well, I'm never going to deliver all 10. What's the top 5 or 6?
Yeah.
If I'm only going to do 5 or 6. I'd sure like to get the top 5 or 6.
Yeah.
And accidentally get the bottom ones.
Yeah.
And then how do I deliver that in a number they can afford?
Mm-hmm.
And in many cases, it will be different product types, different land plans that are more efficient with the land.
Right.
To get them that utility. Now, it'll have a yard. Will it be the yard you had in the house you grew up in? No, it won't.
Yeah.
Sorry. If you want that, it's going to cost money. And if you have the money, good for you. We have some of that too.
Yeah.
But for many people, it will be, it does work.
Yeah.
The dog can go outside. There is a patio that does have the bedroom count. We avoided a common wall. That works.
Yeah.
And I think the path to affordability is the medium density stuff, right? It's a sweet spot on cost.
Mm-hmm.
You start to get very vertical, and besides, that's not how everybody wants to live. It's really expensive.
Yeah.
But hardly anybody can afford to live in a 3 to the acre community anymore either.
Right. Right.
That kind of 6 to 15 is, I think, where the cost of building, and different people in locations would argue, but more or less the 615 is where the cost to do it isn't too bad. And I can check a lot of utility boxes within that density. So they make some compromises, but there's a difference between compromise and just give up.
Yeah. Yeah.
There's a big difference between, it's not as big a yard as I want, but it is a yard, and no yard, right?
Yeah.
That's a yawning chasm. So I actually, huge proponent of what you're saying. I think that is the answer.
And one of the challenges we have is we were proposing that for a client in a community that I'll just say is, more blue collar-ish, that kind of thing. And the city council saying, no, we don't want that type of density. We want executive level housing here.
Yeah.
And we're just going, well, if you can bring in some executive level jobs, then we'll provide some executive level housing. But, this is where we're at. And the challenge is it's okay if one city feels that way. And this is changing a little bit now, but all of them feel that way. They always have this dream that is never going to come true. So it's really, how do we educate them? What are your 3 important things? What are our 3 important things? And then how do we work collaboratively together to build meaningful places for every, affordable for where people are at and meet them there. So it's
it's a huge challenge. I do think one of the things that's happened, we were talking earlier about why single family problems. And one of the things is just that these MSAs, everything's grown together.
Yeah.
Become very easy for one city to allow its housing problems to be somebody else's. The city next door can do the affordable stuff. We're going to have executive housing.
Yeah.
In the end, and politicians never want to hear this because they're all obsessed with local control. I think this is a case where ideally you'd have regional authorities.
Yeah.
For two reasons. You just shouldn't be allowed to make your problems other people's. And it was
Yeah.
fine when cities were separated by enough
Yeah.
land. Their problems were their problems.
Yeah.
When you butt up against each other, your problems are their problems.
Yeah. Exactly.
It's also a tragedy when 50 angry people can stop a project that
Oh, yeah.
4,000
50. You only need one in California.
Yeah, that's a good point. I was recently in a board of supervisors meeting in California, and there were 50 angry people, so that was on my mind.
Yeah.
But so you could afford to lose 20, 30, 40 votes and not think, well, I'm just doomed, right?
Yeah.
So, some of it, there is an education aspect.
Yeah.
We have to remind ourselves, when we tell them 8 to the acre, they don't have the foggiest idea what that is.
Yeah.
It sounds like a lot. Somebody screams at them and gives them some example of some horrible project.
Yeah.
God, we don't want that.
Yeah.
But I'm sure this happened with you. I've been out with politicians. There's a fabulous Boulder and Denver area, Boulder Creek, that does wheat cottages. And I just heard again, we can't have that kind of density with those size. And I've been on the tours with the politicians after they were built. And they're like, my God, this is gorgeous. I'd live there. We need more of this.
Yeah.
We do.
Yeah.
So they really don't know. So some of it is education. Not all of it, unfortunately, but there is that. I don't think any of us have cracked the code on doing a better job of mobilizing the people who will really benefit from this. The problem is we'll deliver it 5 years from now. They don't even know if they'll be buying here. They're really going to stay up at a council meeting to testify at 10 o'clock at night for something that might deliver a house that they might want in 5 years.
Yeah.
But we haven't cracked the code to really rally the support in a big way of the people who would benefit someday. Against the 20 angry people next door.
Yeah.
We're going to have to figure out how to get better at that.
And that's a really good point. How do we get better at rallying the troops? Because there are a lot that are out there, but they're silent, waiting, someday. And it's a huge educational opportunity and challenge at the same time. Hey, Scott, you've been so generous with your time, and is there any concluding comments you would like to make to the audience, or anything that's keeping you up at night as we close this session?
So the keep me up at night has become job growth.
Okay.
While we have some, it's not great, it's okay, and it keeps getting reported as okay. The composition of it isn't helping us.
Yeah.
Right? The 3 categories that have been growing for the last year to 2 years is healthcare. There's some of those people that are buyers. There's a big chunk that aren't. There's government, which looks like it's set to end. You can argue about how many of those people buy our houses. By the way, I hate the fact that these groups can't buy our houses. But
right, exactly.
Where we are. No. Government in most states is under severe pressure and will be flatlined on jobs. The feds certainly want to be flatlined or worse, or better, depending on your perspective, but less. Local governments are being squeezed. So I don't think the government job growth continues. Yeah. And then hospitality, which most assuredly doesn't buy our houses.
Yeah.
And I think it's mostly a COVID catch-up that my suspicion is, not that I'm an economist, that it goes away. The 3 categories we care the most about, just from a selfish perspective: information, financial activities, business services.
Yep.
Those 3 together are basically dead flat for the last 24 months.
Yeah.
I'm starting to think we've gone from an affordability problem and we have a jobs problem.
Mm-hmm.
And at the moment, I'm not totally sure what it will change at some point, but I'm not sure what the short-term catalyst is for that. So I have become more negative about next year than I was 6
earlier comment. Yeah.
Yeah. The kind of parting thought comment is something that's been on my mind a lot lately, and this is particularly a builder issue. It's so important to learn from history, but it's critically important when you study it and learn it look at your own to ask, okay, but also not just what's the same, what's different. And a lot of privates are struggling. And they're struggling to compete. And I think, frankly, in many cases are not going to find the way to get their SG&A and their efficiency to where they can compete in core markets for core products. It's not true of all, but I think broadly speaking, outdoing the publics in that area is just going to get harder, not easier. And in many cases, when we talk about this and we talk about options, one of the things we'll talk about is, well, you're good at entitlements and land. Why not focus more on that? If I look at your numbers, what it tells me is you're making money at entitlements, you're making some money at land development, and you're subsidizing your home building company. You pull this into pieces. Well, how long do you want to subsidize a business?
Yeah.
And the answer is often, Scott, I did do that before the financial crisis, and it hit, and the builders walked away.
Mm-hmm.
And I had to create a building company to work my way out of this. I will never again be hostage to that.
Yeah.
Again, got friends who went through that, did it.
Yep.
It's not like I don't understand. Here's the thing, though. This gets back to the earlier conversation. When that happened, 75% of your market was private builders who could not buy any lots from you if they wanted to.
Yeah.
They didn't have the money. The bank wouldn't let them.
Yeah.
And you had way too many. When I first started working in Atlanta, we were finding some niche deals to do, but boy, they were interesting investment committees because they had 110-month supply of vacant developed lots in North Atlanta.
Yeah.
And you're explaining your way around why, well, I know what that looks like.
This is different. Yeah.
Niche. There was just too much stuff.
Yeah.
And broken builders. We'll flash forward to right now. What do you see?
Yeah.
I don't see 110 months of vacant developed lots.
Nope.
Frank, hardly, not even seeing 24, especially if you used any kind of normalized absorption, sure, weak last quarter, but long term. And you got all these public builders who can buy your lots anytime they want as long as they're happy with the price.
Yeah.
Nobody can tell them no. No bank's telling them no. It's like, if works, let's go.
Yeah.
So you're building an insurance policy for something that I'm not sure is going to happen like that again.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's just an example, but I think, we had more time. I tell you a story about us and how we got that wrong, totally wrong.
Yeah.
But in the past, the similar kind of thing, knew so much of history, but missed something different and didn't do as well as we could have. But I think for guys thinking about their business today, what I would say is, if you could sit and look at it and say, look, if somebody just asked me to buy this thing, this investor calls me and says, Scott, I got some money. If you're willing to co-invest, we got this company to buy.
Yeah.
And you looked at your company, would you be happy with their plan? Would you want to buy it? Would you believe it?
Yeah.
If you can look at it as an outsider that way, and if you can ask the questions, which parts of the business do I make money from? And am I doing some things because it got me out of trouble once, but my most likely trouble is different now?
Yeah.
This is another one of those. It's not critiquing what you did.
Yeah.
It's asking, is it still the valid answer? That's something I'm running into a ton as I talk to people. That set of take a step back. Would you buy this thing and be okay with it? And are you doing things based on stuff that happened to you before that I can't promise it'll never happen, but the risks of it look very small compared to other risks.
And Scott, I think that's a perfect segue because I like that idea for another podcast, if you'd be willing to come back and talk about that, because it's really fascinating.
Anytime.
Well, Scott, thanks for taking the time. And for all of our listeners, I'm going to be putting Scott's contact information, if you're okay with that, Scott, into the show notes. So if you have any questions or would like to talk with Scott directly on a project, you'll have his information. So with that, Scott, thank you very much. And for all of our listeners, if you're enjoying the podcast, I encourage you to subscribe wherever you get your podcasts. So thank you.
You have been listening to the Land to Lots podcast with Carter Froelich. Follow us wherever you find your podcast to never miss a new episode.